Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Casey. I share simple style thoughts and outfit ideas that work for me as a petite woman, especially when it comes to pieces that feel comfortable, wearable, and still put together. For this brand spotlight, I wanted to look at a house that feels almost impossible to confuse with anyone else, and that is Schiaparelli. It is one of those brands that instantly catches your attention, not only because of the clothes, but because of the feeling behind them. There is always something surreal, sculptural, theatrical, or slightly strange in the best way. And the more I looked into the house, the more interesting it became. Because Schiaparelli is not just a luxury brand with strong visuals. It is a fashion house built on the idea that clothing can also be art, provocation, humor, and fantasy. The maison itself traces the brand back to Elsa Schiaparelli and says the house was created in 1927, which already tells you this is a story with deep roots. To understand why it still feels so different now, it helps to start with Elsa Schiaparelli herself. The house's official history says her early breakthrough came through a trompe-l'oeil sweater that created the illusion of a bow, and that piece became one of the sparks behind the creation of the maison. That detail matters because illusion was there from the very beginning. It was never only about making elegant clothes in the conventional sense. She was interested in turning clothing into something more playful, more intellectual, and more visually disruptive. That instinct would go on to define the house. And that is really the first thing that separates this brand from many other heritage brands. A lot of fashion houses are built around refinement, polish, and tradition. It also has craftsmanship and couture technique, but its identity has always leaned towards surrealism. The official history of the maison highlights Elsa's connections with artists and her interest in unexpected motifs, while the house's current presentation still emphasizes anatomical codes like eyes, ears, noses, lips, and hands as part of its iconic visual language. These details are not random decorations. They are part of the house's DNA, and they make the brand feel less like a standard luxury brand and more like a house that wants to challenge what fashion can communicate. That artistic relationship is a huge part of why it matters historically. The Maison explicitly highlights Elsa's collaborations with artists, especially in relation to surrealist ideas. And that legacy still shapes how the brand is understood today. In other words, the brand was not just making garments to be worn. It was engaging with image, symbolism, illusion, and the emotional power of fashion. That is why so many of their pieces, even now, feel like conversation starters. They are meant to leave an impression. They are meant to be seen, questioned, and remembered. Of course, the brand's current visibility is also tied to its modern revival, and that is where Daniel Roseberry enters the story. The house officially says he was appointed creative director in April 2019, and his own profile on its site says he has revived some of the house's most influential codes while paying homage to Elsa's love of surrealism. That is probably the clearest description of what his work has done. He did not try to make Schiaparelli feel generic or overly commercial. He leaned into what made it unusual in the first place, and in doing that, he helped make the house feel vivid again. What makes that revival especially interesting is that Roseberry seems to understand that it cannot survive by being subtle in the same way other luxury houses might. It has to be bold, but not empty. It has to be theatrical, but still intelligent. In his official statement when he was appointed, he spoke about picking up where Elsa left off and carrying the legend and myth of the historic house into the future. That wording feels very true to what the brand has become again under his direction. It still feels like a mythic house, one that is connected to couture technique, but also to imagination and emotional intensity. And that may be why it feels so current, despite being rooted in such a specific past. The house does not present itself as nostalgic. Even when it looks backward, it tries to bring something forward. In the official text, for the haute couture fall winter 2025 to 26 collection, Roseberry says that looking backward means nothing if we cannot find something meaningful to bring into the future. That line says a lot about the current identity of the brand. This is not heritage for the sake of heritage. It is heritage being actively translated into modern spectacle. You can also see that in how Roseberry talks about couture itself. In the official text for Haute Couture Spring-Summer 2026, he says couture is not about clothing for daily life, but about chasing the fantasy that fashion can still provide. He describes couture as an invitation to stop thinking and start feeling. That is such a useful way to understand the brand now, because the house does not really operate on the logic of utility first. It operates on emotional force, visual memory, and the kind of fashion that pulls people in, because it feels larger than everyday dressing. That is also one of the reasons why it has become so visible in celebrity dressing and red carpet conversations. The house's own site regularly documents prominent appearances in custom couture and ready-to-wear, from film festivals to major performances, and those appearances help reinforce what the brand is best at, creating looks that are hard to ignore. But even beyond celebrity, it has become a reference point because it offers something rare in luxury right now. It has a clear point of view. It does not look interchangeable. It does not feel watered down. And I think that is the real answer to why Schiaparelli stands out. It is not only because it is visually dramatic. A lot of brands can produce dramatic runway moments. It feels different because its drama comes from identity. The surreal codes, the anatomical jewelry, the sculptural gold details, the exaggerated shapes, the emotional language around couture, all of it feels connected to one coherent house vision. Even when a look is extreme, it still feels unmistakably Schiaparelli. That level of recognizability is powerful in fashion, especially now when so many brands can start to blur together. It also helps that the revival has been recognized from within the fashion industry itself. In 2024, the house announced that Daniel Roseberry was honored as International Designer of the Year at the CFDA Fashion Awards, with the brand describing his impact as boundary-pushing work at the helm of the Parisian couture maison. Awards do not explain everything, but they do reinforce the idea that its return has not gone unnoticed. It is being seen as culturally significant, not just visually viral. So when I think about why this brand feels so different, I do not think it is only because the brand is bold. It feels different because it stayed loyal to something that many brands lose over time, and that is a truly distinct imagination. From Elsa's early experiments with illusion to Daniel Roseberry's modern couture vision, the house has kept returning to the idea that fashion can still surprise us, unsettle us a little, and make us feel something beyond simple admiration. That is rare, and it is probably why it remains so unforgettable. And maybe that is the simplest explanation. Schiaparelli never tried to blend in. It built its identity on art, surrealism, and visual risk, then found a way to make that language feel powerful again for the present. In a luxury world where so much can start to feel familiar, that kind of originality becomes its own form of lasting power. If there's another brand you want me to feature next in this series, let me know below. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.